Hi, someone asked me today about channeling, so I'm making a little video to tell you about what it is and why I generally don't recommend it. Generally, souls are souls. So we're in bodies, we're out of bodies, we reincarnate, and we're in a process of development over millennia. So we are sort of as developed as we are. We don't become more developed by dying. So people that we care about or love, they don't become angels, they don't become spiritual guides, they don't become things that they weren't as a soul before they died. So generally, people move on after their body dies. They go through a process of kind of reviewing their life and moving into the next phase of sort of spiritual holding and preparing for the next life. The longer after the death, usually the less connected they are to their life on earth, their last life on earth, the last time when you knew them. So it becomes more and more difficult to contact them usually. There are a few exceptions sometimes when there's something that's very important to them as a soul, not just as that person. So sometimes if somebody's been working like on a life mission that involves a soul mission, then they're still connected to that after they die because they're still connected to that purpose as a soul, not just as the personality that they were in the previous life. So sometimes those people, they stay in contact and they stay engaged because they're still working on that mission. Generally, though, people get further away and harder to reach. That's good and healthy, and you will sometimes have contact with them shortly after they die and then occasionally afterwards. You may also stay connected to sort of the energy of them, have a sense of them that stays with you, that's not so much communicating with them as a soul as it is sort of connecting your heart to the sort of energy that was the essence of their personality. Okay, so now if you're going to be trying to channel, the beings that are easiest to reach when you go to do that kind of thing are beings that hang out in what we often call the psychic realm. It's sort of a space between Earth and the higher vibrational range, which we can call heaven. So the beings that hang out in there are not in bodies anymore, but they're also not in the higher vibrational state. There's a couple reasons why that happened. One, they are just lower vibrational, non-incarnate beings that are not human. Or they are human souls who are sort of resisting the movement into the next life and the continued development of their souls. So that's not great, and it's usually temporary. They hang out there for a while. They kind of figure out that they are ready to start growing and moving forward again, and then they move into the next vibrational level. But in the meantime, they're just not healthy souls. They're not healthy people. So when you're reaching into there, they're very interested in communicating because they get a lot of life energy from communicating with people on Earth. They can kind of suck vitality from you. And so those beings are usually all up and ready to communicate, and they're very easy to reach. But if you talk to them, one, you're getting advice from a very unhealthy being. Two, they are likely to suck energy from you, and over time that can actually make you mentally or physically ill. So, the beings that are easy to reach are not healthy. And sometimes they will masquerade as other things. If they think you want to hear that they're a spiritual teacher, or that they're a disincarnated master, or that they're your great-great-grandmother, or they're whatever, something fancy and sounds special. They like those kind of things. They want to tell you they're special and to keep you engaged. So those kind of beings, not a good idea. It's gonna end up hurting you. I recommend staying away from it entirely. As far as deceased loved ones, one, you want to make sure that it's not one of those beings sort of pretending to be a deceased loved one. And the other thing is, we don't want to be pulling on deceased loved ones too much because we want to let them move forward as souls. But if they have something unresolved, if they have something that they want to communicate to you, or if you really need some sense of peace and knowing that they're okay, you can often make that connection. The best way to do that is to really do it through your own meditation practice in a space of a lot of light and love, and asking protection from spiritual masters, Jesus, Mary, angels, so that you can be very clear and pure and high vibration in that connection, and then receive it it and accept it and move on. As far as channeling for other people, there's a couple of rules. One, again, I don't totally recommend it. There are some people that are very specifically called to it as far as communicating with souls that have passed, and it can be okay and healthy. But there are a few rules. One, you never communicate without being asked. So it is a violation of a person's sovereignty, in their space, to approach them and tell them that you have a message from a dead loved one. If they have not asked you to channel for them, then that is not okay. It's invasive and it's not healthy. So, and also, if people are asking you, that's a huge responsibility. And so honestly, I just don't recommend it in general unless you have a very clear calling from your soul and you've done a lot of work to manage your own spiritual energy so that you're not negatively affected by floating around outside of your body. In order to work in the spiritual realm without being hurt by it, you really have to develop good mastery of your own energy and your own consciousness. That takes a lot of years, often of meditation and spiritual practice and sort of mental, emotional self-discipline to be able to maintain your boundaries and your own independence. It's like you have to keep from being overly influenced by energies. When we're outside of body, when we're outside of the dense realm, we're actually more easily influenced. And so we have to be careful and we have to be good at managing our own energy. Otherwise, it'll lead to a lot of suffering and sickness and issues in your health. So that's all I have to say about channeling for today. It's obviously a very deep subject. And again, I'm not saying it's never good, never for anyone, never. I'm saying in general, I don't recommend it. For specific people who have that calling and have that gift and have done the work, it can be healthy and fine, but I wouldn't recommend dabbling in it. And if you're going to do it, do the spiritual work in order to be very clear. Blessings.